Did you know that a piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand has 100 billion neurons and 1 billion synapses? Or that 60% of your brain is made of fat? Well, now you know. Our brains are wondrous, but surprisingly, we know very little about them. This is Toporo, and today we'll explore our top 10 unusual and little-known facts about the human brain that'll leave you starstruck. Number 10. Men's brains are generally 10% bigger. Men have a generally puffed up physique, and it turns out it's the same for their brains. Science has proven that the male brain is 10% bigger, but that doesn't imply any difference between men's and women's intelligence. Despite this difference, women have more gray matter, which explains their better memory and emotions. The more significant men's brain sizes don't make them more intelligent than women. Nevertheless, a few scholars disagree with this claim, arguing that men might have the edge over women by 3 to 5 IQ points. Regardless of how this debate rages on, it's apparent that the advantage in men's brain sizes doesn't weigh in. Women, however, have an advantage over this battle for supremacy. Despite having marginally smaller brains, they process information about 5 times faster. Number 9. The brain heats up from thinking too hard. We've all felt burnout before. This familiar feeling always shows up after a long day of racking your brain and doing demanding tasks. If your brain feels too hot, please don't be surprised. Scientists have documented extensive evidence that the brain actually heats up after prolonged heavy thinking. Like overworked computer CPUs and motor engines, brains heat up, explaining the discomfort you usually get in your head. The brain can heat up to 40 degrees Celsius, about 3 degrees Celsius higher than the standard body temperature. While your brain heating up is expected, it can indicate possible brain damage. In such cases, the discomfort in the cranial region can be way overboard, a telltale sign that it's overheated beyond capacity. But for the most part, manageable discomfort shouldn't worry you, but rather comfort you with the thought that you had a pretty productive day. Number 8. The brain can survive 5 minutes without oxygen. A broadly known fact is that brain cells can hardly survive without oxygen. However, they can surprisingly cling to life without oxygen for a whopping 5 minutes. Of course, that would take a significant toll, but it's much better than your brain dying out. You may steadily get unconscious within the first 3 minutes of oxygen deprivation, but a quick CPR within 5 minutes can save your brain cells from permanent damage. Only after this time will your brain cells start getting damaged. Further down the clock, your brain cells may start dying out, which is usually a point of no return. Number 7. The human brain weighs 3 pounds. Take your brain off your head and you'll weigh 3 pounds less. Besides that being entirely impossible without taking an early ticket to the afterlife, your brain weighs quite a bit. The brain can weigh about 3 pounds, vaguely as heavy as a grocery bag full of apples, oranges, and onions. Scientists argue that this high size-to-weight ratio is due to human capacity and intelligence enabling them to save much information. Early humans faced myriad environmental challenges, which explains the need for higher brain capacities for memory and data storage capacities. Number 6. The GPS destroys the brain's innate sense of direction. Technology has offered a much-needed hand in virtually every single human aspect. However, sometimes it seems to do more damage than good to the brain. If you've wondered why you casually keep forgetting your routes downtown, maybe you need to reevaluate your reliance on technology. Some studies found that hikers who relied on their GPS lacked spatial awareness and couldn't even remember their routes. Scientists have tied that to the hippocampus's propensity to shrink when not used. Number 5. Your brain isn't fully formed until the age of 25. Most people lack planning acumen and develop rogue habits in their youth, and will only blame that on their undeveloped brains. Their frontal lobes aren't usually fully developed. Scientists believe that this underdevelopment in the brain coerces them into unreasonable conduct. They link the spate of acts of violence to youths who have no developed capacities, picking fights, and being rogue for no reason. Although this theory is questionable, it bears some truth. Your brain will only fully develop when at the age of 25. That's when the prefrontal cortex structurally connects with the back, helping you to reason better. Number 4. Brain cells can cannibalize themselves. Brain cells can suck the life out of each other to survive. However, this situation is usually induced and isn't natural. Cells cannibalizing themselves sounds pretty scary, and as much as that's highly unlikely, it's possible. Be assured that it won't happen out of the blue. Brain cells can be the best neighbors in your cranial space, and they combine their efforts to keep you sane. but if you've got some bad habits, you might want to watch out. New evidence in mice has shown that cocaine can push the brain cells into cannibalizing themselves. Moreover, other habits, including dieting, can still be a viable precursor to this unusual and unnatural pattern. Number 3. Brain information travels up to 268 miles per hour. Brain information can travel up to an unbelievable 268 miles an hour. That's about the fastest speed Formula 1 has ever recorded on their quickest cars. Now imagine such speeds inside your very own body. Neurons usually develop an electrical impulse that travels between cells when stimulated. That relays information quickly, making humans more reactive on impulse. It also makes us better at making quick judgments compared to other mammals. That's wildly impressive and gives us a much-needed advantage in intuitive capacities. Lucky humans. Number 2. You only use 10% of your brain? That's only a myth. It's a common belief that people only use a fraction of their brains in their lifetime. Well, who said so? Of course, you believe that coming from your college professor, but it may be entirely misinformed to think so. Scientists have come up with new evidence suggesting that people use more than 10% of their brains, even when asleep. Number 1. The human brain can generate about 23 watts of power. We're all amazed by how mesmerizing the brain can be. However, you would hardly believe this vital organ can be handy on blackout days. The brain is euphemistically referred to as a body's powerhouse for a reason, but can it be the body's central coordination center and a viable electricity source? Maybe. The brain can generate a whopping 23 watts of power, which is enough to power a light bulb. What did you think of these brainy facts? Did any surprise you? Let us know in the comments, and be sure to check out this next top 10 video.